Hi there. It's Saturday morning, a very wintry morning in Australia. Windy, probably hear it outside. Having my morning coffee, thought I'd just record a bit of an ambient piece. I've got a couple of new modules and one on the way. I've got this Endorphin's new Godspeed and the Oct expander, give me more modulation sources, and there's a braid clone coming which is going to sit here and sort of replace this mini synth. Annoyingly, the MIDI in of this one isn't working. Done lots of tests, so I'm going to have to get a replacement for that because it's brand new. But it's got a lovely sound, so I thought I've got it. I probably won't see it again for a couple of weeks. I'll do a bit of an ambient piece, and the 4 VCA up here as well is relatively new, so I thought what I'm thinking, and this is the thing with ambience, you've sort of got to have some intentionality about it. I thought I would use a combination of the lovely tones off this one, use this so I can fade the, if you like, the drones or the sounds in and out, and then use a bit of frippatronics on this loop, the purple colour here, to slowly build up a bed of notes, and I'll probably use the prob melody or probem melod on the Ornament and Crime Phaserville, this one, which allows you to actually set a scale and a note range, and every time it's triggered it will send out a note within a scale. So that's a great way of randomly or semi-randomly building up chords. So let's start. I'll talk through it as I'm going, kind of what I'm thinking. The first thing is just let's have a listen to the Godspeed to sort of choose a nice sound. So that's actually a sine wave. These two controls here are fantastic for adding a bit of interest to the sound. So that's the timbre, and then we've got the FM index. So it's a bit harsh at the moment. I suppose I should really filter it. So I think I'll do that. No, I won't. I'll leave it raw, because what I'm thinking is, this is going to be a bed sound, so it needs a bit of high frequencies in there. I don't want it too soft. If I want to fade the volume of this in and out, I'm going to need, I'll use some shorter leads. I'm going to need to use this VCA. So I'll show you that working. So all I've done is gone into the VCA, out of the VCA there, and now I'm going to modulate that using this unipolar element of my new Oct expander. So what that will do is it'll just go up and down without hitting going below 0, so produce this wave effect. Now we just need to change some notes, so I'm going to use the Volts-Proctive in here from Prob Melod, and I'm going to trigger that so it will change the note every, I think of Pam's Pro here, every 15 beats, or 15 versions of what we're currently running at, 130, so that's pretty fast. Imagine it as running at half that, 65. So as soon as I put this in, it's now going to trigger a different note of this scale, and I think I've got it set to a C minor. I'll probably put a And this is the thing, I can sort of say I want the 4 out of 10 probability for a D. I'm going to have the A flat 8 out of 10, 80% chance, and then the B flat 50% chance. And I can control the range there. So that's the basic setup. The nice thing about the Godspeed is that I've got 3 output sources. There's a much more complex oscillator, and there's a sub as well. And I can have all 3 running at the same time. I'm going to start with that one, and I'm going to use this VCA here. I can actually use this same modulation source across 4 channels if I want, and actually mix the output from there. So this acts as sort of double VCA and a mixer. So you can see I'm going in on 1, coming out on 4, and if I don't plug anything into 4, then it will just submix the others. So what I'm thinking of doing, I haven't planned any of this, I'm going to use the other oscillators into some of these, and then potentially use this switch. So I can, on this VCA mixer, I can switch the sound in and out using this linear exponential thing. I think when it's X, it actually makes it so quiet you can't hear it. And I can also decide not to have the modulation having a massive effect on the sound and actually turn the level up so that it's a combination of modulation and constantly there, or full modulation for any of the sounds going in. So the next thing, and we can start probably, capturing the piece, is to, instead of going out to the mixer, I'm going to go via this looper. So it might have a shorter lead. I get a bit, what's the word, a bit anal about if a shorter lead will do, then use it. So we'll go into the looper and then out of the looper into this mixer, which I was already in, which allows me to put on delay later. This mixer is now routed through the U-burst clouds clones, so I can do some, if I want to do any texture granular stuff, I can use things into this. So I could potentially change that into this mixer and then do some granular things over here. I'm still sort of reconfiguring this so it makes more sense, but anyway, so what were we doing? Yes, so I've got this into Frippertronics mode, so a bit of a coffee, slurpy noise. So the purple one means that it will record one loop, and in fact I'm going to put that into record now, just so I'm capturing a bass. I can set the level, make sure everything's set okay. I can increase the input level. So that's capturing the first loop, and that's the important one. And the Frippertronics one, as I was just about to say, fades away some of the previous loops, so you end up with this constantly evolving layering that goes on. So if that makes sense, so this loop I'm recording now, after about 5 or 6 rounds, will have disappeared, but it means that the whole thing is shifting. I'd normally, I don't know if you can hear the notes changing. Obviously the notes changing are between this rather random modulation. So what I mean is you can actually hear the switch between notes. You could actually set it using, and I often use like ADSR here, so that this VCA opens, and when it's closed the note changes, so then it opens again on a different note. But I don't mind on this one. So there's the first loop. If I stop the loop and then immediately go into record, we're now layering, and I can, on the Godspeed, just add a bit more interest to the sound. And it will get quite loud sometimes with these. As it builds up the loop, it can get a little too hot as the levels build up. just increasing the overall level of that, of the looper. We're going to have some delay on, and not that it's at the moment in any tempo, because the tempo is coming from this random rate on the oct expander. But I'm going to put a delay running at, just check, 1.3 into this FX8XL. Which, with a little bit of reverb, starts to really build the ambience. The other thing I can do is change the octave range of the Godspeed, or new Godspeed, at any point, because there's quite a few high notes coming in. So I'm going to actually, well, what I can actually do is to introduce some lower notes. I can take the sub out of Godspeed, like I said, and have that going into the second channel here. And because it's all sub-mixed, I can flick the sub in, which might be a bit loud, we'll see, and then also control its overall level there. So there's the sub going in, and this is all going into the Frippatronics loop, remember. It's still a bit high. I'd like the bed to be much lower in, so I'm going to attempt an octave switch. There we go. At the moment it's not in any significant stereo because it's coming back into this pan here. If I pan this to one side, I'm going to change my headphone configuration because I forgot to do that. And what I mean is I want to make sure when I'm panning that it's going to the side that makes sense to me, so that should be on my left now, yeah. All the time I've been talking, this has just been building up this sort of C minor 7, well, I suppose it's C minor anything chord, because we never know quite what's going to happen with it. The other oscillator I can add is I think it's more of a complex, the one that most people use is out of the Godspeed, because it's got a very affected by these controls here. Switch that in. I'm gradually increasing the timbre and the FM index effects, which is going to make the tones very harsh, perhaps, or a little more, give it a little more grit. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to leave that running as the bed. And that's the nice thing about these ambient type things. Might be a little harsh, so what I can do is just drop the harsh oscillator out for the moment and the sub, just so that the next few layers that go in are going to be more of the softer sine wave type ones. Because obviously ambient, you don't want to be too much in the listener's face or ears. I suppose they've got ears. Right, the next thing, probably going to have a sub bass, a really low one, that's using a different note sequence. So on the ornament and crime, I'm going to choose another prop melod, which I think I'll set in a second. So I'm going to put that into, put it into the same mixer, so it's going through this delay. I'm going to have it on sustained. I'll just turn the loop down for a second so we can hear what I'm doing with this. So this is, as you can hear, just a constant low drone. And I'm going to send it the notes from this prop melod. Looks like it's nicely tuned on a C. I'm going to actually modulate some of these later. So for example, I should have modulated the Godspeed actually. I'll do that now because so I'll take I think another slow unipolar and modulate the timbre. That will start to come into play as these loops replace themselves. So what I'm doing here is effectively just turning the timbre. Yeah, it's a bit low, so hopefully we'll end up with overall a higher range of notes. So let's go back to the sub bass. So this one, similar process as this melody probabilities. I'm going to take a slowish clock, and the thing about these is to make them different. So 5's running at 15 beats, 6 I'm going to run at very low, let's say 27, so it's completely overlapping. So that's all working now. At the moment it's just on C, so I'm going to first of all change the range just to a couple of octaves. I'm then going to add in a few more notes that I want it to choose. So an E flat, probability of 70%, an F, probability of 30%. I do like the A flats, so I'm going to give say 100% or 90% for that one, and then a G as well, which is useful, 70%. So I've set that. The nice thing with the Phaserville one, I can save this, so if the power goes off or something, I can now save these two configurations and call it back later. A bit of presetting, I suppose. Bring in a bit more of the sub bass on that. So that's going to be a counterpoint, and there's going to be lots of accidental root notes coming in with the chords that are building up. I mean, it's a constant drone, so we need some modulation on the mini synth. So again, I'll use there's a bit of a randomy what we call smooth wave on this one. Let's see what it works on the filter. Again, turn the loop off. It's probably a bit fast, so I'll go for see if there's a slower one. Quite nice in terms of speed. Here it comes. Probably needs a bit of pulse wave as well, so what I'll do on that one is a very slow bipolar from the original oct. The thing with these sorts of sounds is you don't want them pinching and being too forceful, so it's okay. Let's try a one of these random waves. Which is one of the reasons for getting the expander. Just gives you more modulation variety. I think that'll do. It's kind of the sound I was after, that very almost nondescript, and then we'll add that to the now what's probably going to be high sounds from the loop, which is just the one sine waveform at the moment. I can bring in the sub on this one. Obviously the frequency range might clash with the sub. I'm panning the loop all the way, well not all the way, but to one side. So that with the bit of modulation, that can form the basis of the bed, so to speak. I might vary it later. Like I said, I've got the ability to bring in much harsher tones later on. Have to be a bit careful though, because all the time I'm recording a loop and I don't want to put any jumps into that because they're unrecoverable. That means I'd have to delete the whole loop if I wanted to fix any blips and errors that go into it, so just have to be careful. Right, the next thing, I've got obviously lots of sound sources to choose from, and we've got, you know, these other digital FME type waveforms. We've got the twin wave dual oscillator, so two there. I've got the Pony VCO. I've got the pluck, which is a string emulation, Carpus strings, and then I've got polycinematic, which is a chordal based sound, and I've got the surface. Another sound I've got is the built-in sound from the Cosmos sequencer. Just turn this phone off. Typical. And then which needs a bit of envelope shaping because it hasn't got it built in. But I think for the moment, just to keep things simple, I'm going to use the surface, which is all the way over here. It'll just allow me to run sort of slow, random plucking sequence. So I've taken the CV from there. I need another longish lead to get the gate into the trigger. And then this is in stereo, so I'm going to run this through this mixer, because then it will allow me to, if I want to, try and find two leads the same colour, it will allow me to granulate it at some point. Blue and black, that will do. So I'll get this in stereo. I'll leave the beds running just as I set up these other sounds, so that will go there. Pan this either side. I've got the surface set up to do some stereo selection, so it will just chuck that in there, probably make a crackle. So again, a bit anal about leads. If I can get them out of the way so I can adjust things, the leads in front, I do. So here we go. Let's see, hopefully it's in tune, that's the other thing. So this is coming from here at the moment. I'm going to turn off all the other steps just so I can hear one note, see if it's in tune. Let's just go to the first step. So I think that's supposed to be a C, so it just needs a bit of fine tuning. So on this one, if I turn this full counterclockwise, the root note's a C. There we go. I'm going to make sure it's got the most polyphony on this one. So as I add extra notes now, let's just, sounds okay. It's always hard, I think, when you start to add obvious melodic parts over a bed like this, that some of the notes may not fit, so just increase the octave of the bed here. That's probably not a good idea actually, I'll just leave it as it is. Do a bit of balancing on the beds. Oh, of course, it could be the scale, so I'm just going to check the scale on this one. So it says we're on a minor, which is fine. So now we just need to decide on how many notes we want in this sequence, perhaps randomize them. Choose a nice combination of notes. And then using the clock in, because this is the first instrument I'm going to clock using this PAMS 1 here, I'm going to tell it to not play every note. So I can use PAMS as a way to, you know, occasionally stop the notes. So if we look at the probability, I think I may have already set this because I use it quite a lot. Oh no, so let's make it a probability of 70 that there's going to be a clock pulse sent to this. And now we can randomize the notes that are there, so it's going to play in any sequence. Now it's a feel thing, and again note ranges and all sorts of things come into play. I could have it quite a lot faster and then less clock going in, so that let's make the probability, I'm just experimenting here, probability 20%. And when it does play, it's got a chance of doing some faster note sequences. Turn it up a bit, and I'm going to make the decay longer, or the release, sorry, on surface. Again, just adjusting the probability of the clock going to this. Cool, I'll let that do its thing, and I can make adjustments to any of this later. Probably one thing I could do, and you know, because I'm not recording the piece, this is just about setting up the piece. If I think the bed's getting out of control, I can just delete it. I know it seems counterproductive, but I was kind of thinking of something softer for the bed. So although the Godspeed's great for those harsher tones, I really want something a bit more sine wavy. So I'm going to re-record just this first loop on the sine wave. And then I thought in this lovely silence, not silence, but quiet a bit, I could potentially have some white noise and that sort of thing. So that should... So again, I've got to just keep an eye on this first loop again. Once it's done a first pass, using these notes here. So that's probably about the right tone. You can imagine a bunch of these building up. And then it's only a bit later where I can introduce the sub-octave of the Godspeed and the complex oscillator if I want to make it much bigger. But Surface is doing quite nice here. It's probably too many notes, so I'm going to reduce the probability even more. Just to give the Surface a little more pluckiness on the sounds. There we go. So I'm going to start the loop again. So this is where the chords are built up. This is the thing about patching, is that, you know, you may set something going and it just gets too big or not what you want, so you can go back and change it. Let's bring the sub in. I think the sub was fine. It was doing its thing. Might just drop the high frequencies. So there we go. That moment there was a sort of things you're after, those happy accidents. I'm going to try to have another sequence on another sound just coming in and out gently. So again, a bit of a phasing thing, which I could probably do using perhaps pip slope into this fourth VCA. So what I need to do, so I'll just switch there so I can use this fourth one for another sound and control the amplitude, obviously the amplifier. So I'm only using 1, 2, 3 into the output there as a three-way submixer of the Godspeed. So what I'm going to choose is probably, let's try this Pony VCO into channel 4 of the VCA, and then output of that into channel 3 of the mixer here. So that's a Pony VCO is normally set. We'll let that loop build up in the background because I'm just playing with the Pony at the moment. So the Pony's in there. Let's have a listen to it on a very low note. So let's see what we can give the Pony. The Cosmos Quenser is nearby, and it's quite a nice random thing. So what I'm thinking is just occasional fast sequences being phased in and out here. In fact, I might just use a very slow bipolar from the opt. So let's put some notes into the Pony. In fact, it's got its own VCA input, so I could potentially trigger it on a very slow pip slope with here. So we'll try that. So the pip slope's nice, so I can take it out of there into the Pony, which has got a built-in VCA, and then trigger the pip slope, which is an envelope generator. Again, another slow one, slowish. So number 7 is going a bit fast at the moment, so let's make it like every 5 beats, something like that. Oh, sorry, we've got surface going again. So we're just concentrating on the Pony at the moment. So the Pony is going to have some notes from this, so we need to trigger, and this is another relatively new thing. I've got the PAMS Pro expander here, which gives me these extra standard clocks. So let's clock the Cosmos Quenser at 2 times speed, but I can control that with the sub-menus. So I've got a clock here. So what you're hearing there is this sending notes to the Pony. The VCO is coming from a separately clocked envelope shaper here, which we can slow down at the moment. I've got it every 5 beats. Let's make it every 14. So every 14 beats the envelope's going to be triggered. And then if I make this sort of super fast, it's sort of interesting. I just need to set it to something more regular for the moment, just while I set the speed up of this, because this, I can randomize a whole bunch of things on this, like the rotation of the Euclidean. I can randomize the pattern. I can choose the scale, which I think I might just do a basic, not pentatonic, but I just need to do a bit of a shift on the scale. So I'll go to E flat on the scale here, just see E flat, and then make it a major pentatonic, which will be the effect of a minor in C minor. So I'll just check that's the right one. It's always fun doing this on, because you've got to sort of think that's the start note. So that should be the equivalent of a C minor pentatonic. And then we'll also randomize the bias on this so that it will occasionally bunch up the notes, make them faster, increase the length, and increase the density. So what I'm after is that this faster sequence will come in every now and then. I just need to control the register and the range. I'm going to modulate the pony timbre. Probably use another one of these random shapes, which I might be using at the moment. I think that's the timbre one. Just check there. So that's the kind of thing I was after. Very, probably very subtle, fast notes appearing every now and then. Just need to make the envelope decay a bit longer. There we go. The modulation's a bit too strong, I think. So I might just use a unipolar, relatively fast one. The unipolar allows me to just sort of set the bottom point on here, and it's just going to go up and down. So if I set it quite low there, of course I could filter this, and you can see it's getting a bit busy over here. But let's see how this works. So I'm going to slow the trigger for this down for the envelope shaper, so that it only happens, it's just like a nice surprise every now and then. So every 32 beats, and probably a probability, you know, 65% that it will actually trigger the envelope. So now we've got this lovely silence that can be filled with hopefully a nice softer. Might have to tune the pony. I should have done that before. I can't remember if it's in tune or not. I think I've got a setting there that I can sort of get it pretty close. See, this is where I need to increase the envelope, the chance of it playing, just so I can adjust things. See if it works with it's got the right notes. Yeah, that's pretty close. So again, let's go back to the slow amount of triggers. Bring the loop back in. So just to recap, this is the Godspeed loop from the looper, which has been frippertronicking for a while. We've got the sub bass. The volume for the pony from the Cosmos Quenser is here. I'm going to put that to one side. And again, the idea with this is just occasionally for it to come in with something reasonably fast, and then adjust the balance. Could change the shape of the envelope for that. So it's going to come in every 29. There we go. So it's a little harsh. It may be that the timbre modulation is not required. We don't want that really harsh thing coming in, so I'm just going to keep it nice and soft. I can change the register, so if I want it, there we go, some more higher notes, a bit slower on the attack. Surface. Now with ambient music, obviously it's all about balancing now, making sure that, for example, the high fast pony doesn't scare the living daylights out of you. It's all about a nice soft waves. So the original Godspeed loop is a little soft now, of course, because it's so I can increase the timbre and the FM index, and then potentially bring in the other two waveforms just to increase its prominence in the balance. Likewise with the sub bass, if I want it to poke out a little bit, I can just increase the filter. Also, if the feel for the sub bass isn't quite working, I can change the notes on here, so I can say, right, I don't want you to do any G's, well, to 20%. I want 20% on the Fs, but I want a lot more on the A flats because that gives you that lovely, you know, A major 7 feel. The B flats, I'm going to say 30%. E flat, which gives it the major feel, of course, I'm going to say 80%, and then I could actually well, not kill, but reduce the Cs as well to 50%. So it's actually going to favour the A flat now on the sub. I'll tell you if it hits one, and then you'll understand what I mean by the A major 7 feel. There we go. So that's, I think that's an A flat. So we're getting a nice bit of stereo on the surface. At any moment I can perhaps freeze and grab a bit of the surface on the granulator and then introduce a freeze of that. And on clouds, of course, I've got, with this little button here, I can choose what I control with this button. So that's the blend, wet and dry. That's the stereo spread, which I'll make maximum. That one's the feedback, which sort of feeds back the granules back into the module, and then we've got actually built-in reverb on this. If I freeze it, I do need to modulate it, so that's where a nice bipolar comes in. So I can grab a nice bipolar and modulate the position of the freeze. Remember, this is grabbed. In fact, let's get rid of everything because you're probably confused about what's going on. So you can see this in itself could make a nice bed. So as the position of the frozen one's being modulated by this, let's make it a bit faster so you can hear it. So there we go. That's just a little grab of the surface, and I can balance how much of the granulated bit with the frozen bit is using this control. So that's pure surface. This is the frozen one with the modulating position. Might make the length of it, the size a bit longer, so it grabs a bit more. And the thing is, if you freeze it on when it's playing notes, then the position modulation will capture some of those as it goes backwards and forwards over the buffer, which you can hear happening there. It's like that. It sounds like a ramp up into some of the notes. Try it again. There we go. So I froze it and it actually went backwards. So if you hear them, so what you do is you listen. You go, right, when it plays a few notes, freeze it, it will capture them retrospectively. So it's a constantly evolving buffer. And now we've got a combination of live surface. Remember, this is being played from over here. Could increase the speed. But then it gets to, I mean, the thing about ambience is you don't want things moving too fast. You also don't want things sticking out of the overall sound. I could go full texture synthesizer or granulator on this. I could also modulate some of the other things like density or the texture. But it's nice to have a combination when you've got this mixer. I could actually add the polycinematic to really build up this side of the piece. So let's bring the loop back in. This is the Godspeed. Let's bring the sub in. And you want, obviously, these to be balanced with the surface and the clouds thing over here. Add a little more reverb. I've got a nice choral one which is a favourite. This parameter here controls the choral effect. I think it's that one. never remember them. Oh, there we go. So here that sounds like a bit of a choir playing in the background. And I can modulate that parameter. That was one of the reasons for getting this FX8 XL, is I can put a bit of a bipolar modulation into the choral effect, so it'll actually change the type of choral sound that this is generating at any moment. Let's bring in the Pony VCO, these little fast ones, see if they pop in every now and then. I don't want to swamp it with reverb, of course, so well, I think I'm getting there. I've got the phone going off, so I'll have to finish. So now it's all about balancing. You can hear the choir coming in there, it's nice. Right, so the loop is a little high. I can bring in the sub from the Godspeed, just to add an extra middle texture, and again going into the loop. The balance of the loop and what's going in I can adjust on the looper itself, so that's the... in fact I can turn the mix down, so what we're hearing now is just from the VCAs, or this first 3 VCAs, and then balance it with the existing loop. So I added the sub in there. If I wanted a sub to be lower in the mix, so level 2, I can just increase the volume of the sine wave element. So I might let it play, because the whole point of this is to, you know, have a flowing ambient thing without me yakking over the top. So I'll shut up now, and I'll just play it for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes as an actual piece that I could potentially use. And I might start from ground zero, so to speak. So what I'll do is just take it back to nothing and then gradually build it up. So thanks, have a listen to this, see what you think, interested in comments, and yeah, let's go.